What if the world's most critical shipping lane is no longer usable? The Strait of Malacca handles nearly 25% of global trade, 94,000 ships a year, including 15 million barrels of oil every day. But at just 2.8 kilometers wide near Singapore, it's dangerously congested, vulnerable to piracy, and caught in the crosshairs of rising geopolitical tensions. For global shipping, it's a ticking time bomb. That's why countries are racing to build a way around it. At the top of the list, Kra Canal, a $30 billion Thai megaproject that could bypass Malacca by cutting 1,200 nautical miles off shipping routes. Then there's Thailand's second option, a $36 billion land bridge linking the Gulf of Thailand to the Andaman Sea with highways, ports, and rails. Further west, Pakistan's Gwadar Port, backed by $62 billion from China, offering a direct trade route to the Arabian Sea. So, in the high-stakes race to replace the Strait of Malacca, which project will land the lead and who really stands to gain? One thing is certain, it won't go down without a fight. The Strait of Malacca is one of the most important shipping lanes on Earth. It's like a massive maritime highway about 900 kilometers or 560 miles long, connecting the Indian and Pacific Oceans. Throughout history, ships from Arabia, Africa, Persia, and India traveled this route, trading valuable goods like spices and silks. In the 7th century, the powerful Srivijaya Empire grew wealthy by controlling trade here. Today, the Strait of Malacca is even more crucial. It connects China's booming economy with Europe through the maritime Silk Road, carrying massive amounts of oil, raw materials, and everyday goods we all rely on. However, this critical route faces major challenges. It's overcrowded, incredibly narrow, and surprisingly shallow. Only about 25 meters, around 82 feet, just enough for the largest ships to squeeze through. Piracy remains a risk, and seasonal haze from wildfires can dangerously limit visibility. Most worrying, geopolitical tensions are rising, especially for China, which depends heavily on the strait for its energy imports. Any disruption could severely damage global trade and supply chains. Could the Strait of Malacca become the global economy's biggest bottleneck? Many countries aren't waiting to find out. Thailand is racing ahead with a groundbreaking idea to bypass the congested Strait of Malacca, a $36 billion land project. Imagine connecting two oceans by cutting straight across Thailand's narrow southern neck. That's exactly the plan, linking the Andaman Sea on the west coast with the Gulf of Thailand on the east. To make this happen, Thailand will construct two new deep massive seaports, Ranong Port facing the Andaman Sea and Chumphon Port along the Gulf side. These ports won't stand alone. They'll be connected by a high-speed dual-track railway and a modern motorway running about 90 kilometers, around 56 miles across the land. For perspective, that's roughly the same distance as traveling from downtown Los Angeles to Disneyland in Anaheim, California. These two state-of-the-art ports combined aim to handle about 33.2 million 20-foot equivalent units annually. To help visualize this volume, roughly equals the combined container traffic of major U.S. ports like Seattle, Miami, and Baltimore put together. Thailand promises this route would significantly cut shipping times, saving vessels roughly 4 days of travel compared to sailing through Malacca. On top of the time savings, transportation costs could decrease by up to 15%. That's huge when considering global shipping operates on tight margins and strict schedules. However, this ambitious vision depends entirely on smooth logistics. Containers arriving at one port must be quickly unloaded, transferred efficiently across the peninsula by rail or truck, and reloaded onto awaiting ships at the opposite port. This process, if delayed, could quickly erase all time and cost advantages. Imagine coordinating hundreds of containers daily, ensuring ships, trucks, trains, cranes, and dock workers all operate seamlessly. It's an engineering and logistical challenge on a massive scale. Yet logistics aren't the only concern. Environmentally, building such an expansive project means clearing enormous tracts of land, vast stretches of mangrove forests, lush wetlands, and pristine evergreen jungles. home to rare species like hornbills and greenshanks, face destruction. Local communities fear displacement and loss of livelihoods, raising fierce protests against the project. Financially, securing private sector investment has proven challenging, though dozens of companies initially expressed interest. Few have fully committed due to doubts over profitability and stiff competition from existing world-class ports like Singapore's Tuas Port and Malaysia's Port Klang. Thailand is actively courting investment from Saudi Arabia and the UAE to diversify funding sources, hoping not to become overly dependent on China. Can Thailand overcome these obstacles and revolutionize global shipping, or is the land bridge too ambitious to ever fully materialize? If the land bridge faces hurdles, an even older and more ambitious idea remains on the table: the Kra Canal. Imagine a waterway slicing directly through Thailand's narrow Kra Isthmus, connecting the Andaman Sea directly to the Gulf of Thailand. This would effectively bypass the Malacca Strait, saving ships an incredible 1,200 nautical miles, around 1,380 miles of travel. That's roughly the same as sailing from New York City all the way down to Miami, Florida. First proposed back in 1677, the Kra Canal concept has resurfaced repeatedly over the centuries. Recently, China expressed keen interest in funding and building it as part of its Belt and Road Initiative. However, powerful regional opposition from Singapore and India, who fear a loss of influence and Thailand's own hesitations, have kept the idea from progressing. Building this canal would require an enormous excavation stretching approximately 102 kilometers, 63 miles, making it nearly twice the length of the Panama Canal. Such a massive construction project would permanently alter Thailand's geography, potentially fueling separatist tensions in the already troubled southern provinces. From an engineering standpoint, the canal would need advanced lock systems to handle elevation differences, sophisticated dredging technologies to maintain channel depth, and massive port infrastructure to handle gigantic ships. The environmental impact could be catastrophic. Habitats would vanish, marine ecosystems would be severely disrupted, and even regional ocean currents and weather patterns might change due to altered water flows. Financially daunting, geopolitically complicated, and environmentally damaging, the Kra Canal continues to be a controversial topic. Can modern political realities finally transform this ancient idea into reality, or will it forever remain just a dream? Far from Thailand, another megaproject takes shape in Pakistan. The strategic Gwadar Port, located along Pakistan's Arabian Sea coastline, Gwadar lies about 624 kilometers, around 388 miles, from the crucial Strait of Hormuz, where nearly 20% of the world's oil passes daily. Part of the massive China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, CPEC, Gwadar represents a stunning $62 billion investment by China to bypass the Malacca Strait. China plans to move oil and goods from the Middle East directly through Pakistan into western China. To do this, they envision railways, highways, and most ambitiously, an oil pipeline cutting through challenging Himalayan terrain. Consider the pipeline route. Well, starting at Gwadar Port, oil would travel inland, crossing deserts, rivers, and mountainous regions, eventually climbing through the Karakoram Mountains, reaching elevations as high as 4,572 meters, around 15,000 feet, higher than any other mountain peak in the contiguous United States. This daunting project would be one of the world's most challenging infrastructure endeavors, rivaling even the highest altitude pipelines worldwide. But serious hurdles stand in the way. Gwadar Port currently has a maximum depth of about 14.5 meters, around 48 feet. Yet, fully loaded large crude carriers, the ships necessary for economically transporting oil, need harbors of at least 18 meters, around 59 feet. Extensive dredging and maintenance would be required regularly to achieve and sustain these depths. Security is another huge challenge. Militias and separatist groups have frequently targeted infrastructure projects, posing constant threats to Chinese workers and investments. The pipeline and road networks running through unstable regions like Balochistan would be especially vulnerable. Protecting these routes would require extensive, costly security measures. Financially, Gwadar's success hinges on China's commitment to invest billions more into infrastructure and security. Logistically, building roads and pipelines through mountains and politically volatile regions adds significant costs and risks. Yet China remains deeply invested, driven by their need to resolve the Malacca dilemma and secure reliable oil routes beyond U.S. naval control. Amidst this fierce competition, the Strait of Malacca isn't going quietly. Singapore, Malaysia, and Indonesia, the three nations bordering the strait, are aggressively upgrading their own infrastructure, determined to preserve their economic advantage. Singapore's Tuas Port, the world's largest automated container terminal, when completed will handle around 65 million containers annually, nearly twice the capacity of Shanghai's port, the current largest. That's enough containers placed end-to-end to circle the Earth nearly 8 times. Malaysia, not to be outdone, is expanding Port Klang, set to grow from 14 million containers annually to around 27 million. This is equivalent to doubling the current volume at the Port of Los Angeles. The busiest container port in the U.S. Malaysia is also completing the East Coast Rail Line (ECRL), providing seamless connections between its coasts. These massive upgrades signal clearly Malacca's defenders are fighting hard. Yet are these improvements enough to keep the world's busiest shipping lane ahead? Or is global trade ready for a new champion? Want more on global trade battles? Go ahead and check out our video, The $300 Billion Secret Race to Replace the Suez Canal. Discover how another critical trade route faces its biggest crisis ever and what it means for global commerce. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more captivating construction stories.